Welcome to the Weekly Mac. Today we celebrate Shakespeare's Day with a special show. We'll discover the Bard's legacy with the translator Joan Sellent, the theatre director Pep Garcia-Pascual, and actor and director Flack. We celebrate the 23rd of April with romantic stories. Stay for our new section, Love in Translation, and don't miss our language tips on the language of Shakespeare. Let's start the Weekly Mac, a Shakespearean talk show presented by Marcella Topor.
Hello. Last Tuesday on St. George's Day, it was the celebration of the 403rd anniversary of Shakespeare's death, and allegedly the day he was born as well. It is also the International Day of the Book, and that's why today we talk about the works of the best-known playwright in history. And let's start by defining some tricky words that will come up in the chat.
One of our guests, Joan Sellent, has had many commissions to translate Shakespeare plays, and this is the first word of today's glossary: commission. A commission is a task or a piece of work that someone is asked to do and is paid for. Let's continue with a phrasal verb: to put off. If something puts you off, it makes you lose interest, dislike it, or decide not to do it or have it. In Shakespearean times, a fencing duel was an acceptable way to settle a dispute, and so one can find many of them in his plays. Fencing is a practice or sport in which two competitors fight each other using swords. Shakespeare plays included love, tragedy, humor, and also some bodiness. That means he included some of sanity or erotism, especially to be humorous.
Joan Sellent is a recognized and awarded translator of theatre plays. He has put into Catalan many playwrights from Harold Pinter to Oscar Wilde and, of course, William Shakespeare. Pep Garcia-Pascual is an actor, producer, and the director of the Parking Shakespeare Company. He has directed the show Hamlet or Not from Les Mirones Company that has been recently seen at Teatre Poliorama. And finally, Flack is a British actor, founder, and artistic director of Escapade Theatre and IPA Productions. She has lived here since 1990 and has appeared in many Catalan soap operas and Spanish films. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Okay, so the subject is Shakespeare today. Everyone talks about Shakespeare and the importance of his legacy. But the question is, are we not overdoing it? I mean, why isn't he just, a famous playwright in history? He's like the playwright.
He's just the best. He's the best, so you can't forget him. He's done so many plays. The themes are so... they can touch everybody so well that even when there are adaptations of his plays, you can recognise the common themes that affect everyone. The love, the friendship, the tragedy, the romance. I think they're common themes. That's, in my opinion, why he still lasts today. No?
We could even say that he's the most modern of playwrights. I mean, because, as a classic, classics are actually the most modern texts and authors, because they are still valid nowadays as they were 4, 5, or 10, or 15 centuries ago.
Exactly.
And that's why they're still alive and being put on stage so often all over the world.
Yeah, and every time, I don't know about you, Pep, but every time you go to see a version of Hamlet, they're always different, aren't they? People do them completely different all the time.
One of the things, like, it always talk about the human condition, that you're super talking about love and all that things. It didn't change in the last 400 years, the basic things, but it changed maybe what it's around them. Maybe we'll have now computers, maybe we'll have something that make life easier. People don't die that young, that used to be that mostly. But so the Occidental world, it's been changing out this side of, but at the same time, that's what makes the Shakespeare world is too open at the same time, that you can all have your own version of what you want to do. And it's like we take the freedom to play Shakespeare or to direct Shakespeare or to imagine Shakespeare's world
to
the way you want.
it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
you interpret it the way you want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it gives you that freedom,
Yeah.
which is good.
Do you think there's like a boom, a Shakespeare boom at the moment? Because there are many productions staged at the moment in Barcelona and all over Catalonia.
Do you feel that it comes in waves, that everyone suddenly does one? Do you feel that?
Probably, yeah.
I mean, there are always 2 or 3 productions in any city, aren't there, being done, yeah.
As far as Catalonia goes, I think that perhaps there has never been a period where no Shakespeare has been on stage somewhere in Catalonia. But in the past few years, I think this has been increased in that you have at least 2 or 3 Shakespeares in a single season.
Which is good at the same time that sometimes there is the same play at the time. So you can have 2 productions of the same play, and then compare what I think it happened last season with the Tempest. There was 2 young companies doing 2 different versions at the same time in Barcelona. So you can go to see one and then the other, and then compare and what you will prefer.
Well, Joan, you have published Versiones a peu d'obra, a 1,000-page volume with the translations of 10 Shakespeare plays, and actually they are all specific commissions for unique particular staging. So do you think that plays should be translated again each time they are staged, just like costumes or stage setting?
Not necessarily, but I think that it has more than one positive aspect, this approach, which is a growing trend to whenever a company decide to put on stage a new production of a classic of Shakespeare in this case, to commission a new translation as part of this particular production. And the fact that the words, the version is also specific for this particular project is especially interesting and useful when the translator is also available to,
of course,
I was going to say,
to
alive.
participate, no?
Maybe be in the rehearsal room.
I think you once said that for you, one of the most moving and the most enriching experience for you as a translator is in the first reading with all the actors.
Yeah. When when you've been working for months on your own, in front of your computer screen, trying to produce sentences and to produce a text that sounds right, and you keep talking to yourself the whole day and acting all the characters, and then you have the chance, for the first time, you have the chance to hear what you've written in the voices of the actors that are going to make this text alive.
Alive, exactly.
And this is very moving for me.
I have the pleasure to work with Joan in one production as assistant director, and it was great because he's one of the translators that goes to the rehearsals. He goes very involved. But the main thing that I remember about it is like it's a text that it needs to be said out loud for an audience. So that change sometimes maybe will be to in a way that you will read it, that will be sound great, but then some things change in the process. That's what it's great to have the translation besides you.
Well, Pep, since 2009, Parking Shakespeare Company has been putting on stagings, Shakespeare comedies at parks. So tell us, why this initiative?
Oh, it comes like the idea that there's a lot of places that are doing Shakespeare outdoors, Shakespeare in the park, and why the hell not? We have a great weather here. We have lots of parks. The weather condition, it's like people want to be outdoors in the summer. Why not to give them the opportunity as well to the people to have to spend a good time watching a theater play? Why not Shakespeare?
And free.
It works exactly, and free entrance, public access to culture. At the same time, try to bring families together or just bring people. It's just getting used. It's great after these 10 years that you can see the kids growing up. So they came when they were 4 or 5 or 6, and now they're 16 and they're still coming over every summer. So it's like, I don't know if the next step that we're going to do this summer, it will fix as well. because we've been doing, as you said, comedies, but from next year we're going to add as well some tragedies. So that's going to be a challenge for us.
This is getting serious.
Yes.
And tell us, Sue, you are the founder and director of Escapade Theatre, a company based in Catalonia. What is your experience with Shakespeare?
Well, with Escapade Theatre, we haven't done any Shakespeare. Escapade is a theatre for adults in English here. And you do need to appeal to a wider range of audience. And I've been a little bit timorous about choosing a Shakespeare because I know that it puts a lot of people off. But with the schools company, EPA, which is similar to what Pep is doing, we've done 2 adaptations, one of Macbeth and one of Romeo and Juliet. And they work really well for that age range, which is basically SO kids.
Yes.
And you can tell them the story in a fun way, and they hopefully they come away going, oh, that Shakespeare guy's actually quite cool, you know. I like the story.
Hey, Mac, what's all the noise?
Oh, hi, Billy. How you doing? Where's Duncan?
He's dead.
Tired. He's dead tired.
So do you agree with what they say sometimes, that playing Shakespeare is essential and any actor should play one Shakespeare at least once in their career?
I think that as an actor, I remember at drama school we worked on the sonnets for breathing. So you had to be able to say a whole sonnet of 12 lines in one breath.
Wow.
So to be able to actually then get up on stage and do that, it's fantastic, and the language. Not a lot of us get chance to do Shakespeare, especially women.
Well, this is a very interesting conversation and I'm enjoying it very much. I hope you do as well. But it's time for a break. We'll be right back in 3 minutes and we'll see a couple of bits of Hamlet. So stay tuned. Welcome back. We have discovered many things about Shakespeare and his works with the translator Joan Sellent and the actors and directors Flack and Pep Garcia-Pascual, but we do intend to find out much more. So, in his time, was Shakespeare famous?
He was first known as an actor than as a playwright. Some say that he wasn't a particular brilliant actor, but still, he was a member of a company, and if necessary, he got on the stage and played some. They say that he played the ghost of Hamlet's father.
So, Sue, do you think that the fact that women were not allowed to act back in those times, do you think that this has had an influence on Shakespeare's work?
Yeah, it's something that I hadn't really kind of correlated, and I, you know, I'm always complaining that Shakespeare, there's no great parts for women. There are a few good parts for women, but not enough. And obviously, why would he write parts for women if they couldn't get up and do it? And he would have had to find all those young boys with, you know, where their voices hadn't broken and they didn't have a lot of muscles to be able to play those parts, which were probably not easy to come by. So obviously that's the legacy that he's left us. It obviously has something to do with the times that he was living, I would imagine.
Of course. What about the language? Was the English that he used easy to understand for the audience of the time?
At the time, probably will be much easier because it's like one of the good things of Shakespeare, but sometimes when you're doing a production is that they say things like 2 or 3 times. Because when the people were used to go to the theater, to the Globe to see Shakespeare's plays, they spent like the whole day or half of the day watching the play, but sometimes they were coming from getting the groceries, or they were going with
They had their
food
tomatoes
and exactly,
to throw.
so that's why if they don't like it. So it was a dangerous profession, more dangerous than now to be an actor at the time. So they need to be clear and they need to understand what they're saying. So that's why sometimes he said things like, but he already said that idea. That's when we're doing the productions now, that it makes us more simpler on that part.
I asked about the language back then, the way it was understood for the audience of the time, but in your case, Joan, the Catalan you use in your translations are modern Catalan or archaic?
No, modern Catalan. I think this is the only possible way of being faithful to Shakespeare. Shakespeare was writing in in the language, the English language of his time.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is what I should do.
Okay.
I mean, and Shakespeare was a man of the stage, and one of his priorities was to people to come to see the plays and to communicate with people. At those times, the audiences didn't expect to understand everything.
Okay.
They were captivated by other aspects of the language. The music, the musicality, the verses, the verse.
And maybe the emotions as well,
Oh,
the
the
things that
emotions.
happened. I imagine that their reactions were much stronger than ours today because we've seen it all, you know, on the TV.
And the significant part of the audiences were practically illiterate, but they were amazed and moved and touched by they identified that the language that was speaking up there on the stage was their own language, but they were amazed at how well their language could sound.
Okay. Well, Pep, your company has been staging until now Hamlet or Not, a contemporary adaptation of Hamlet. Tell us about it.
Well, the production company Las Mironas knew about the work we've been doing with Park in Shakespeare, and they offered me to direct a Hamlet version for teenagers. So it was like that was the target. The target audience was teenagers that they're doing like from 16 to 18 and at high school. So let's try to get them involved, and at the same way, like Joan was saying as well, like maybe they will not understand everything, but they will need to follow the story. So actually, we just trying to make the same effort for the audience, and at the same time, they will follow the story, being interesting, and the most important thing, getting interested in going to the theater. That is one thing that we're doing as well with Park in Shakespeare, but this time the challenge that Las Mironas throws for me is like, we're gonna do it in English with only 5 characters, and it must take at the top 75 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes. So it was a lot of challenges to put them all together. But I think we did a great job trying to get them. At least the audience that we had during the run-through in Polyarama, I think they proved that, because it's quite difficult, and probably Sue will know about it, to get teenagers when they're 14, 15, 16, being concentrated for an hour and 15 minutes. And they were following the story with no subtitles. It was not like in Temporada Alta, when the companies come here. So it was like trying to get them involved in learning English at the same time. And we think it worked because the people were focused, they were very quiet, following the story until something happened, because like the stories on Hamlet has that kind of things.
Well, brilliant. Let's watch a few lines of the play Hamlet or Not, directed by Pep Garcia-Pascual. First, we're going to see the beginning of the plot, the moment Hamlet sees the ghost of his father. So tell us, Pep, what happens in this scene?
Well, what happened is that they convince Hamlet, Horatio, his best friend, convinced Hamlet that he saw his father's ghost, and Hamlet really wants to go and see him and make proof that, because he wants to know what happened with his father, which was, he think something was not okay of what happened. So he maybe was killed, he maybe was not. It was something very strange, and he wants to find out.
Okay, let's watch it.
I'm not going any further. Speak to me.
Everyone was told that a poisonous snake bit me when I was sleeping in the garden. But you should know that the real snake that killed your father is now wearing his crown. Yes, your uncle, while I was sleeping, poured a poison into my ear and killed me. Don't let my bed be a nest of incest, but don't do any harm to your mother. Morning is near, so goodbye. Remember me.
Remember you? Yes, remember you. As long as I have any power of memory in this confused head. Remember you. Ah! You evil woman. You villain. You damn smiling villain.
Well, that was impressive.
Yeah, I was trying to get them involved in that. The set of the play, the kind of look, it looks like the 80s at the same time. So it was like we tried to get them something that the the audience, our target audience, will recognize as something that they know, but at the same, if they go in with their family as well, something that they will be remember when their parents were at the same time, the same age as they have. So in the 80s, some of them, so it was like even they were kids, maybe they were teenagers at the same time. So something that they were familiar to them by why the parents are trying to, you need to see this film because I watched it when I was a teenager and you really like it. A lot of parents do that. So sometimes it's like things that they will recognize and make them common to understand.
And are all the actors Catalan or?
It's half of the cast is Catalan, half of the cast is at least with English family or English. We have Lawrence Starley, which is British. I think works with Sue as well, Lawrence. And we've got as well Tasio Martinez, that it doesn't sound very English, but his mom is from Liverpool and he got a very strong Liverpool accent when he wants to do it. But the rest of the cast was Catalan, but with a brilliant accents. And there was another thing as well. Sometimes we thought that if our Hamlet, that is Joan Sellent, had this a little tiny bit, he doesn't have a strong accent at all, but sometimes for the audience it will be much easier to do it. We did a work with the language as well, that we tried to not transform, but to make more understandable for young audience or for any other audience. It was like to make them to like from Shakespeare's English to present-day English for them to follow the story.
Okay. Well, halfway through Hamlet, there is arguably one of the most popular soliloquies in the history of theatre. Okay, Sue, can you tell us about it and what it actually means to be or not to be? That is the question, because many people, there are different versions. Yeah. So what is it really about?
I think Pep needs to explain that one.
What is he actually trying to say?
I can say that, but we were talking about that as well with Joan, so we have like two different options as well of it. Actually, he's debating what, at least how we approach it, if he wants to live or not. If it's like, if he's gonna commit suicide or not, and if he's gonna go through to this or not. So he's debating about life and to be alive or to kill himself. So on that thing, sometimes we can say like, to be or not to be, that is the question, because it's the famous line, unless someone stand up from the audience and go like in the Lubitsch film. But it's like, when they say to be or not to be, you can see the audience is like, okay, then I know the answer. That is the question. Yeah. So it's like, if you change that, maybe it will be more accurate for the way that we're using now. But it will be like, everybody knows these lines, so we have to keep with it.
And when I think, I've probably seen about 20 versions of Hamlet or maybe more, and every time that that's coming up, everyone is there going, how are they going to do it? Is he going to forget the lines? Oh, how? And it's everyone's kind of right. Oh, and I thought that was quite good, or I didn't like the way he did it. Yeah, with all the different
Joan, what
versions.
do you think it is about? Do you agree with the Pep?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And, you may have doubts about what it means if you only know the first line, to be what, to be. But then the rest of the soliloquy makes it perfectly clear what he's talking about, what Pep was saying.
In your case, was it difficult to translate this part?
Well, it's never easy to translate.
Probably because it is so famous and so popular.
Yeah, the fact that it's his most famous passage puts on you a responsibility that it's an added difficulty. And I remember when I translated this as a commission from Luis Omar, who actually put it on stage.
That was the first one you did, the first commission you had, it was from Luis Omar.
The first Shakespeare translation I did was this one, commission from Luis Omar. That was 1998. And the play was premiered in the Teatre Grec in Barcelona. And I remember working, and it was a very interesting experience because Luis Omar and myself worked together all the time. And it was a very special moment of the play when the king is praying and she's saying to God, these hands are full of blood and there wouldn't be enough rain in heaven to make them clean, and then it started raining.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent.
Nice moment.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good luck, no? Well, let's watch now a part from the end of Hamlet. And I'm afraid we're going to give some spoilers, but Pep, could you please summarize for us what's happening in the end?
What's happening in the end? So finally, when Hamlet is back from England, when he has been sent away with the purpose of his uncle to be killed, but he changed his plans and he come back to Denmark, and then he realized that Ophelia is dead. Ophelia is his kind of girlfriend at the time, and it's like he realizes that he's dead, and he's trying to make peace with everybody, but he still has in his mind to revenge his father dead and with his uncle Claudius. But then decided on the other side, Claudius is determined with Laertes to kill Hamlet, to revenge Laertes' father, that is Polonius, that Hamlet killed. So it's like kind of a lot of killing in between. So finally they have a fencing match, and in that fencing match, Laertes, with the conspiracy with Claudius, has different kind of poisons all over the place, in the drinks, in the swords, trying to kill Hamlet, but they need to fence, and that's how we start.
Okay, let's watch the ending.
Ah! Both fences are bleeding! How are you, my lord? How are you, Laertes? I'm like a bird caught in my own trap.
I've been poisoned.
Find the traitor! It's me, Hamlet. You're dead. The king's to blame. Then poison to your job. No! No, come on. No. My lord. He got what he deserved. Exchange forgiveness with me, noble Hamlet. Horatio, I'm dying. Tell everyone what happened. Never believe it. I'm more ancient Roman than a Dane. There's still some poison. No! You must tell everyone what happened, Horatio. Tell them the truth as it is. The rest is silence.
Well, lots of deaths, no?
Yeah, I think only Horatio is the one that survived to this play. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of kills. It's the same like we saw with the Queen, that Laura Pau is just getting poisoned and she died. The rest of the cast is actually dying in a very fast time. As we said, we have very short time to it. And Ricard as well was playing Laertes, that he's the one that is the hand that kills Hamlet at the first time. So it's like everybody's at the separation that is the one that led to explain the story. So I always want to think that Horatio is the one that explained the story to Shakespeare to do the play and perform the play. So it's like, that's why you survive to tell in the future what happened to that thing never happen again, which obviously it happened all the time, that people trying to get into the power by not the proper way.
Yeah, so lots of blood, no, in Shakespeare's plays. What do you think that is? They had a special taste for blood and guts, as they say, because in modern times there aren't so many killings in the modern plays. I mean,
in modern plays, no, but I would say that Shakespeare is our modern day Netflix. So there are plenty of, there are lots of horror films and lots of killing and very, very violent, aren't there? Obviously, for the people in those times, it would have been very shocking. And I think they even thought that it was real, you know? They were, is it really, really happened? Which would have been a wonderful experience to be in the audience there in the Globe and, is he really dead? You know, and then they stand up and take their bows afterwards. He didn't die. Yeah, I think it's, you can make a very clear parallel between the violence in Shakespeare and the violence that we watch today on the TV.
Well, we must remember that the most popular entertainment in that time was theatre and public executions.
Yeah.
And the same people who would watch a public execution and enjoy it would then go to the Globe to see a Shakespeare play.
Exactly.
And I suppose there was a demand for violence from a significant part of the audience, as well as a demand for humor. There's humor in practically all Shakespeare plays, even in his tragedies. There's always, he never forgot to include one or two comic scenes, comic relief, and some obscenities as well. There's a lot of
quite a lot.
Quite a lot. Bawdiness, quite a lot of bawdiness, and there's violence on stage, which unlike the classics, the Greek classics, I mean, Oedipus pulled out his eyes, but not on stage. But in King Lear, they pulled Gloucester eyes out on stage. And Titus Andronicus, and there's a lot of violence and blood, totally direct and visible.
Which is always
a
challenge for the director, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
How are we going to do the scene with the eyes?
So that it's not too...
Well, somebody, I don't remember who said that Shakespeare nowadays would probably be a script writer for The Sopranos or for a famous TV series. Do you agree?
Yeah.
He was working. One of the things he always had in mind, I think, is like he was doing the plays for the audience. So it's like he knew that he can talk about. He used poetry for one of the reasons it was easy to memorize for one of the actors. That's why it made him like special still nowadays, because he combined both things to talk with the audience what they want to see, that it was plot, that they want to have a good time, talk about sex, talk about kings killing each other, which was good for them to watch. It's like an action movie these days. It could be like, as you said, in any of the Netflix or any other networks that they do TV shows now. He will be working now in TV shows, maybe in the 70s we'll be working with famous directors as screenwriters. So he will evolve, like we could, the same we do with the plays, we can set Shakespeare in every different part of history, and we can try to imagine what he will be doing. Nowadays, probably will be working in one of the networks without the algorithm that they say they work with us.
However, there are some critics and specialists who claim that the strength of Shakespeare's plays is not necessarily the plot, because it appears that he found his inspiration in other writers and other works. They say that the strength relies in the language and in the characters. So I see, Joan, that you kind of agree with me.
I agree with this. Yeah. I think there's only two of his plays which are whose plot is actually original. The Midsummer Night's Dream and another one which I forget. But in most cases, which by the way was an absolutely common practice at that time, he used a lot of different sources. He didn't care about inventing plots. So for example,
he invented language, no? A lot of language.
Yes, then he took, or even in his Roman tragedies. For instance, had the chance to translate Coriolanus, and some passages are. Then, if you take the what's it called in English? Parallel Lives by Plutarch. Plutarch's Lives, I think it's called. Which had been translated into English. Some 10 or 20 years before Shakespeare started writing plays, and he took the story of the play from there, and some of the passages are you take the English translation of that time, and practically the same words. The only thing that Shakespeare did was putting them in the form of verse, of lines, of rhythmic language, of iambic pentameter.
Yes.
But this was absolutely no one would condemn or criticize him for that, because it was, as I said, the most common practice. The idea of the writer, the playwright or the novelist as a creator of his original plots is much more modern idea. It comes with romanticism.
Okay. Okay, let's have a deeper look. Let's go deeper a little bit into the language that Shakespeare used and actually invented. They say that he invented like about 1,600 words. So yeah, I don't know, maybe it's time to have a look at it. When we first take on an original text from Shakespeare, we can be overwhelmed by what it seems a very old language, and actually it's not. Shakespeare's English was becoming the modern language we know today. Still, it kept a few ancient features. Once you learn them, Shakespeare's sonnets and plays become easier to read, and Helen Armstrong tells us about it in the next language tip.
Hi, have you ever read any Shakespeare? You've probably noticed some differences between his early modern English and today's English. So we're going to look at a few examples today. So we'll start with the word you. So for pronouns, we use thou or thee. So for example, in his sonnets, we say, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Or thou art more lovely and more blah, 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 blah. Whatever he says. Okay. So then we have thy or thine, which are possessive pronouns. For example, give me thy hand, give me your hand. Or, is this car thine? Or perhaps in Shakespeare's day, is this horse thine? So also, the verb changes when you use you. So thou hast for thou have. So we add the st on the end. So thou owest me €5, for example. Also, when you're talking to lots of people, you still use you, but we use ye. So ye are all invited to my birthday party this weekend. The word you was used back in Shakespeare's day, but it was a very formal word. Okay, so off you go and read some Shakespeare. Bye.
Okay, so early modern English. Not easy to understand, but once you get the hang of it, it's quite easy, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like everything. You have to get used. It's like when you learn a language, you have to listen a lot and practice a lot to make them like you comfortable. So, but it's the same like for all the audiences. As Sue was saying before, you see a Shakespeare play in English in Shakespeare's English, and it's like sometimes even English people needs to read the subtitle to understand. So it is for us as well. Sometimes like, okay, once again, it's like I'm following the story, I'm following the same, I'm on it, I hear the poetry of it, just keep going with it, because that's why we still love it, because sometimes even you don't understand it, but you love it.
I think the wonderful thing about Shakespeare is how many phrases and words he's left us. We English, when we speak, we don't realise half of what we say comes from Shakespeare. Yeah. The be-all and end-all, all that glitters is not gold, the green-eyed monster.
Pound of flesh.
Pound of flesh.
Football.
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 Exactly.
It's from King Lear.
Yeah,
it's the first time it was said. Oh, it was like a football play. It's like really, even football, it comes from Shakespeare.
Wow.
Maybe
I certainly didn't know that.
Maybe they should put more Shakespeare on the TV and less football. That would be good.
Well, Sue has brought us some curious facts about Shakespeare's life that you surely know, but which may still shock you. Yeah. So, Sue, what have you brought us?
Well, I was very surprised to see that Shakespeare didn't really publish his plays. They were left to his friends, John Hemmings and Henry Condell, and if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have a lot of his plays now. The other thing was that he turned to writing sonnets because of the plague. We were speaking earlier that every time there was a plague, the theatres were shut down, and because he didn't have anything to do, so he wrote all those wonderful sonnets, which are the poems. We also spoke about the the fact that actors didn't have a very good reputation, partly because they were thought of as being dirty people, you know, with the plague and that, and they were bawdy and they had a
dirty in all senses.
Exactly.
I mean.
So it wasn't a good profession to go into at all. And his will, there's been a lot said about his wife and whether he lived with her. He lived up in London and she was down in Stratford and that. But apparently he left to his wife. His will reads, "I give unto my wife my second best bed with the furniture." And the furniture actually is the linen, is the bed sheets and that. So
he wasn't very generous,
he wasn't.
was he?
No, he wasn't.
So yeah, okay. Well, and we have also asked Sue to choose a quote from Shakespeare's work. And let's see, Sue, which one have you chosen and why?
Well, it had to be Lady Macbeth, because for me it's one of the, possibly the only great female part. And even she gets killed off halfway through. She has to commit suicide with all the blood. But it's a nice, strong part for women. A lot of women, a lot of actresses, you know, would love to play Lady Macbeth. And this is a nice little piece of her thing. Was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since and wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely? From this time such I account thy love. Art thou afeard to be the same in thine own act and valour as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteem'st the ornament of life, yet live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon thy wood like the poor cat in the adage?
Wow, amazing. Thank you, Sue. So tell us, why have you chosen this particular passage?
It's a really nice piece. They've planned to kill the king, and he goes back on his word. And they meet in the antechamber, the king's next door, having supper, and he comes up and says, no, we're not going to do it. And so she has to use all her womanly wiles, her passion, and humiliate him. She uses a lot of different actions in this speech to humiliate him, to make him feel sexy, to make him feel wanted, to shame him, to get what she wants, because she's the ambition, she's the character that's driving him, which is really why I think it's a great part for women in Shakespeare.
Indeed. Well, we've run out of time. This has been a both entertaining and educational chat. We have learned a lot about Shakespeare's legacy in today's English and why he's considered one of the most important playwrights in history. Well, Joan Sellent, Flack, and Pep Garcia-Pascual, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience with us.
Thank you.
Let's begin Guess What, our special quiz show with our two favorite contestants, but also writers, Patricia Scalona and Marius Serra. Well, welcome, Patricia. Welcome, Marius. And congratulations for the books you are signing for San Jordi.
San Jordi is very full of job, a day full of job.
Yeah. By the way, which books are they?
Well, in fact, La Novella de San Jordi, which has a translation into Italian now, so I'm signing as well Il Romanzo di San Jordi, but there's no new book. These and Quiet, which are a very far away book, 10 years old book.
Excellent. What about you, Patricia?
Juegos Reunidos Feministas is my book, which is like an activity book for feminists to be, basically. For you to learn, if you want to.
Very funny. I love that book. Yeah.
Well, and let's welcome our quizmaster, Sergio Cervera, who as an actor must be in a frenzy today since we dedicate the episode to Shakespeare. Sergio.
Indeed I am, yes. And since today's topic is Shakespeare, we will test your wits and knowledge about Shakespeare.
Really?
Oh my God.
Wow.
Didn't expect you guys that, did you?
No, we didn't.
So I hope you know all 37 plays, 154 sonnets, and the rest of his work by heart. Patricia?
I guess
I devote my life to that.
Not so.
Marius, I'm sure you won't let me down this time. All right?
We'll see.
Okay, so let's start with the multiple choice challenge. We have asked people on the street about the true meaning of life by putting themselves in the shoes of a character from Shakespeare's plays. Watch this video about Romeo and Juliet.
If I would be in love with someone, and my parents didn't like that person, then I...
Okay. So, what do you think this lonely soul would do if her parents banned her from marrying the person she loves? A, she would go away with her loved one. B, she would listen to her parents and do what they say. Or C, she would flip a coin and leave it to heads or tails.
I'd say A.
I'd say A as well.
So you
No
both,
coins.
you both option A, she would go away with her loved one.
Yeah.
Let's see the answer.
I would listen to my parents because they know what's best for me, and I take their opinion into account.
Parents are always wrong.
We are on springtime.
She's wrong.
We are on the season of love. I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but yeah, no point goes to no one.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go for the second video. This time is about Hamlet.
Okay, if my father's ghost told me that he wanted to be avenged, I guess.
And so what would these girls do if their father's ghost told them to avenge his death and kill their uncle? A, they would get their uncle drunk and persuade him to jump off the window.
Okay.
It's an option. B, they would expose her uncle and mother's treason. And C, they would be scared to see a ghost.
I would go to a psychologist myself, you know, to treat to shrink, actually, to give me something
straightforward.
I would listen to anything that a ghost says to me.
Very difficult.
I would be really, I mean, I choose C.
You choose C. And you?
I'll choose B.
B. So they would expose her uncle and mother's treason for Marius, and they would be scared to see a ghost for Patricia. The answer is?
Probably scream.
Yeah, very scared. Very scared.
I definitely wouldn't avenge him.
No, I don't think I could.
Obviously, these two would-be Hamlets would do exactly the same thing that any sane person would do on seeing a ghost scream their lungs out. Of course.
But I'm very used to see ghosts
Really?
everywhere.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah,
Every
in
single
real life.
morning.
And how do you react? How do you react when you see
Well,
them?
I don't scream at all. I just pass away.
You're used to
Exactly. Trusting people with more
Patricia,
experience.
how would you react?
Seeing a ghost?
Of course.
Oh my God, I wouldn't have legs enough to run away from that thing.
Who you want to call?
Who you want to call?
Okay, so the score?
So the score is 1 point to Patricia, 0 for Mario.
No common
For
sense.
the moment. For the moment.
For the moment, exactly. So, okay, and as I'm sure you have signed zillions of books these days, but I need you to make an effort and use whatever strength is left in your wrists. So it's time to ring your bells in the challenge of pairs, and we will read a line of dialogue, and you will have to say to which play of Shakespeare it belongs.
Okay.
You don't have to wait for the sentence to finish. I mean, if you know it, ring your bell right away and answer.
Okay.
All right?
Let's start.
Okay.
Ready? 1. When shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning? Macbeth, that's correct. Absolutely. Whoa, that was fast. 2. Good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say good night.
Romeo and Juliet?
That's correct,
Yes.
Romeo and Juliet. 3. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to... Patricia?
Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar. She's interrupting my performance all the time. Number 4. Sigh no more, ladies, sigh no more. Men wear the deceivers ever. Patricia?
Much ado about nothing.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Whoa,
She has been studying.
that's heavy.
Not this time, no.
My God.
Okay. 5. Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster, Marius.
Othello?
Absolutely, Othello. 6. Have more than thou showest, speak less than thou knowest. Again?
Say that again?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a mysterious one. 6. Have more than thou showest, speak less than thou knowest. Marius?
Say King Lear?
Absolutely, King Lear. Wow, I'm impressed, guys. 7. If we shadows have offended, think but this, and all is mended. Then you have but slumbered here, while these visions did appear. Patricia? 5.
Go.
Marius?
Midnight Summer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Going to you, Marius. Wow.
Okay.
Midsummer's Night Dream.
Yeah, absolutely. 8. If you precast, do we not bleed? If you tickle. Oh, Marius.
That's Shylock, so The Merchant of Venice.
Absolutely.
Yes,
but I really wanted to perform this one. But it's okay. It's all right.
It's very nice. It's if you precast, yeah.
9. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark, Patricia.
Hamlet.
Hamlet.
Absolutely.
That was mine.
10. A horse, Marius.
Richard III.
Okay.
Absolutely. I don't know why I rehearsed all these lines.
And we've got 2 more, right?
2 more, absolutely. And the last one, I will perform it until the end.
Okay. We'll see.
We'll see, exactly. 11. All the world's a stage and all the... Patricia.
I know it, but I can't remember it.
Okay, could you?
You interrupted me. Did you interrupt me just for that?
Could you repeat that,
Absolutely,
please?
I can. All the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. They have the exits and the entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts.
Oh,
God!
I hate this.
Marius?
The Happy Marriage of Windsor?
No, that's incorrect. Patricia? Patricia?
As you like it.
As you like it. That's correct. And last but not least, 12. To be or not to, Marius. Hamlet. To be. Exactly, absolutely. To be or not to be. That is the question. Whether it is noble in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of the outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of trouble, and by opposing, end them. To die, to sleep no more, and by sleep to say, we end the heartache, and the 1,000 natural flesh that flesh is heir to. They say consummation, devotedly to be wished, to die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there is the rub, and I can go any longer than this.
Bravo! Bravo! Bravissimo! That's great, man. Going to the royal company.
I'm very impressed.
Do you know that scene was never written like that, though?
Yeah, probably.
It was never written with Yorick's skull.
The skull, yeah. The skull is just a pop culture thing.
That came afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you have 100 points.
So I win the quiz today.
You win the week.
All right, so, okay, look at that.
So the score is?
It's absolutely impressive. Marius 6, Patricia 7.
Oh, nice.
Nice,
It looks like tennis.
So after Sergi's performance, I think we're all very impressed. But anyway, do you have any favorite quotes from Shakespeare?
Yeah.
Such as?
Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Which is a bit nihilistic, but there you go.
There you go. Impressive. Here you go.
Yeah, bravo.
Okay, so any of you two can win 6-7. So now there is only one last challenge, the challenge of clues.
Okay. Well, that will be in a moment. We'll take a 3-minute break right now. Stay with us for the outcome of the quiz and guess word by Marius Serra. We'll be right back.
Today we enjoyed the music of Josemi Boada. Don't miss the performance on the Weekly Mac.
And we go blah, 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 blah. Can't you just listen for a while?
Welcome back to the Weekly Mag and our Guess What quiz show. Patricia Scalona is ahead with 7 points, but who will win eventually?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is one last challenge, but as always, this last challenge won't worth 1 point.
Of course not.
Of course not if I can help it. And how many points are at stake right now? Well, today it will be up to you guys. Here you are. A blackboard and a chalk stick for each of you 3. There you go.
Thank you.
For you as well.
Thank you.
One for you, another one And another one. Yeah, we need to, you know, make it this a little funnier every week.
You just like to torture us.
You're a complicated man.
I'm a complicated, very complicated man indeed.
But he just likes surprises.
Absolutely.
He loves it.
Exactly. So Patricia, Marius, I want you guys to write down a number, whichever you want, and put the blackboard upside down so we can see it. And Marcella, you have to write a sign of a mathematical operation, and the result of that calculation will be the value, she loves it, the value of the challenge. Hold on, because this is cool. Even if the result is negative.
Just tell me something. How much time do you devote to actually coming up with these absurd new norms
The whole
for this?
week. The whole week.
Okay.
I just live for that.
That's
Can imagine.
Yeah,
too long.
for mocking you, for getting you upset.
Yeah, I see.
So, Sergio, do you actually mean that the winner can end up losing points?
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Marcella, but I'm not going to be the one to blame this time.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Because you're the sick.
No, I'm telling you,
that comes up with
the
it.
rules just before playing it. So there you are.
Okay,
so
so
totally
we
up
write
to
down.
you, my dear friend. Okay, all right. So let's play. Okay, and as always, Marcella reads the clues and you ring your bell as soon as you know the answer. All right. We are looking for a well-known character of one of the Shakespeare's plays. Ready? Ready, like. Ready?
Ready. Okay.
So the clues are?
This character appears in a Shakespeare tragedy. This character is a woman. She's in love with the protagonist of the play, and she's a noblewoman from Denmark.
Patricia?
Ophelia?
That is correct.
Exactly.
You guys want to know the clues, the rest of the clues?
Well, in the play, she hands out flowers to members of the court. Her father's name is Polonius, and her brother is Laertes. And this character belongs to the play, The Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark.
Of course, this ill-fated character has been the motive of works of art, such as the famous painting Ophelia by Sir John Everett Millais, which has in turn inspired other works of art. So after this, do you guys want to know how the score is right now? And let's see, well, how much the challenge is worth. All right.
I have a question. If now this mathematical operation is negative, she's going to
lose. She's going to lose a game that she has been leading for the whole time. Okay. But those are the rules. Okay.
Don't be so quick.
No.
All right. So let's start.
You deserve to win today.
You guys show your blackboards.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have 69. It's a beautiful number, indeed. Plus.
It's not negative.
Exactly. It's not negative. Which means that Patricia won 74 plus. Well, 74 exactly plus 7. That means 81 points. 81 points for Patricia.
Well, congratulations, Patricia.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Well, and congratulations, Marius, of course.
Thank you very much. Very well played. Very well played.
Well, and from our Guess What to our quiz word by Marius Serra. Well, Marius, why don't you remind us, please, the clue for this week's puzzle?
Yeah, this week's puzzle was quite easy, I think. It was the fruit of a lover's eyes. That was 5-letter word. And anyone has any idea?
The apple of your eyes.
Oh.
Excellent.
Did I win? Did I win?
You won.
Did I win? I won.
And Shakespeare used it as well in a comedy, in A Midsummer's Night Dream, The Apple of Your Eye.
And what about the following week?
Well, the following one will be more straightforward. This is main purposes with balls. 5 letters. Main purposes with balls. 5 letters.
I know it. I know it. I know it. I know it.
No,
I know it.
you can't say it.
Wait
Wait until next week, of course.
No idea.
Well, to be honest, I can't think of anything right now, but we have time until next week to crack it, right?
That's great. Okay.
Okay, well, remember, you can be the first one to solve our guess word and post it on our profile on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you so much, Patricia. Thank you, Marius. Until next week. And thank you, Quizmaster. And congratulations again for your amazing acting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I can't help it.
Sometimes love is in the air, sometimes it's in different cultures. Don't miss our new section, Love in Translation.
Did you know that you may have been quoting Shakespeare without even being aware of it? And I'm not joking. His contribution to English made such a difference that today's language is full of idioms that can be traced back to his plays. And if you want to learn some of them, don't miss the following language tip by Tim Wari from International House, Barcelona.
Welcome back. So today we're going to look at some expressions from Shakespeare. It's amazing how many expressions Shakespeare invented that we now use every day. The first one is to kill with kindness. This one comes from a play called The Taming of the Shrew. This is one where, for example, if someone's being very angry with you, very annoyed, and treating you badly, you should kill them with kindness. This doesn't mean you should kill them. It just means you should be very, very nice, very, very kind to them. And then maybe they'll calm down, and maybe they'll treat you nicely as well. Also from the same play, there's an expression, to break the ice. This is one that we use quite a lot in our English classes. Maybe in the first class of a course, we need to do some activities to break the ice with a new group so that they relax and they get to know each other. Today we learned an expression with Marius, which was the apple of my eye. This one means someone that you really care about. We often think of, for example, parents, mums and dads, talking about their kids as the apples of their eye. They really love them. They really care about them. Another idiom that is less nice, this one is a laughing stock. This one comes from a play called The Merry Wives of Windsor. Now, a laughing stock is somebody that everybody is laughing at. Okay, maybe they've said something stupid or done something embarrassing. Then in Romeo and Juliet, we have a good expression which is a wild goose chase, okay? This means that it's a pointless task, maybe it's very time-consuming as well. So we often talk about, for example, maybe the police or detectives are led on a wild goose chase by a criminal or by a robber, doing lots of pointless things and not catching them. Also, Romeo and Juliet is a story about lovers. When we talk about lovers, we often talk about jealousy and envy. And we have an expression which is the green-eyed monster. And this means that someone is very envious or jealous of another person. That expression actually comes from the play Othello. And the last one we have is from The Merchant of Venice. And the expression is, all that glitters is not gold. This tells us that appearances can be deceiving. Don't always believe that if someone looks great, they're a good person. So there are expressions based from Shakespeare. Try them out this week.
She's a Catalan singer, songwriter, and she has just presented her first album called White Flowers, which mixes pop, jazz, and Mediterranean sounds. Jasami Buada, welcome to the Weekly Mag.
Thank you.
And congratulations for the album. It's called White Flowers. Why?
Because my name is Jasami, and in Catalan that means it's like the jasmine. So it was my way of expressing who I am. The jasmine is a white flower. So this is how I wanted to show the world who I am and how I feel through these songs.
Okay, and who is Jasami Buada?
Big question. I'm a singer-songwriter, as you said. I like writing my own songs as a way of catharsis, of expressing my thoughts, my feelings. And this is, it turned out on this first album.
Okay, well, you told me before that you actually studied translation and interpreting, then you went to Germany to study music. So how is it that you actually discovered that you want to dedicate your career to music instead of translation?
Yeah, well, when I was in high school, I always loved languages. I loved English, but and I loved music. I loved singing, but it was just like a passion. And I decided I had to go to university and do a degree like normal people.
Okay.
But when I finished, I was like, okay, I'm done with that. I finished. Now I do what really makes me happy, which is singing. And I want to share this with other people and the audience. So I was lucky enough to get in the SMUC, which is the really good school, music school here in Barcelona. And then I could study in Germany as well for 6 months. Songwriting specifically in the Pop Academy.
Okay, this album, White Flowers, has actually been possible thanks to an award. You won the contest Live Your Music in 2016.
Yeah, that's true. I think they just did one edition of this contest and we were like so lucky. We got to the final and then we won, and thanks to that they paid a part of the recording. We went to Valencia to study in there and studio, sorry. And also we could do the video clip, the first video clip that was released in October. We did it thanks to this award, so grateful for that.
All right, well, now you play mostly jazz and pop, but I know that before you performed Afro-American style or gospel even.
Yeah, I started in a choir. Like my first gigs were like as a soloist in a big choir, Gospel View choir. I don't know if you know it.
In Barcelona?
It's in Palafolls.
In Palafolls.
So
okay.
It was gospel. I had a lot of fun, but I decided like I had to focus and study like a bit more serious. So I was in Taller de Músics for 2 years studying jazz, and then in SMUC I was doing a bit of like both, like modern and jazz music.
And how come that your songs are in English?
Because
a few of them are in English, not all of them, no?
Yeah, most of them. There's also some songs in Catalan and Spanish, and I think it's mostly because the music I listen to the most like is in English, like American and English, like from England. So I guess I didn't have any musicians to look up to in here, or singers, you know. Like now there's more like poppy or jazzy singers here, but there weren't so many when I started writing songs like 8 years ago.
So where can we come and listen to your music?
We're doing some gigs on the 17th, 18th, 19th of May in Vic, which is a festival, Al Sol de las Casas. So hope to see you there.
Well, we'll be there. I hope so, at least. And today you are going to sing for us. What song are you going to sing?
We're gonna do Blah Blah Blah, which is the single it's in the album, but we're gonna sort of release it like a single.
Okay.
And it's a powerful song that for me means a way of saying like, stop, listen, pay attention to the world's problems, to women, you know, who like we have been shut for like so long. So we're gonna actually release we just released the video clip of this song with like 4 powerful women dancing.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, Josemi, thank you so much for coming today to the program, and good luck with all your projects.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
And while Josemi and her band are getting ready to perform on our stage, let me introduce you to our brand new section about love stories between Catalans and other people from around the world. Today's story features Joe Johnson from England and Albert Guasc, who've been together for 18 years. Well, don't miss our first Love in Translation.
Hello, my name is Jo, and this is my husband Albert. We met in 1996. 95. And we've been living together since 2001.
Yeah, that's correct.
And we got married to celebrate our 10th anniversary of being together. I had an intercambio with a woman who worked with Albert. I didn't know that at the time, and she wanted to go to a party and I didn't want to go, and she insisted and insisted, and then I went to this party and I saw this quite good looking guy across the room eating chocolate ice cream.
Yeah, we went out to dinner a couple of times, but clearly there was no future because I had to leave abroad after 3 or 4 months later, right?
Yeah.
So
he was just about to go to New York when I met him. And for him, it was his dream job.
And I thought, this girl can help me to get better with my English, which back then it was quite.
He wanted free English
rudimentary.
lessons.
I wanted free, and if I could get something else.
I did. Albert's shyer than me, and I'd always waited for guys to come to me, and I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to go for this. And so I went after him a little bit, but not as much as he tells our children.
Yeah.
To our children, he makes out I was a stalker. Well, first of all, I didn't know that there was 2 languages going on. So I was learning 2 words for everything because I didn't know Spanish before I came here, or Catalan. So there was mesa and taula, and I was learning like double before I realized it was 2 languages. And one of the things that really shocked me was how loud people speak, like the shouting. And I thought people were angry all the time, and then I realized, no, this is just the way they speak.
Well, it's interesting because when I moved to New York, I was first offered a job in England, and I said, no, I don't like England at all. I'm not living in England. I can't stand English people. No, if I have to move, I'm going to the States, which is perfect. So look at that. Now with an English woman, which she kind of, I accepted the food, for instance, which is something, you know, here we tend to think we are a bit snob about the English food. So we kind of get used to some of her cooking abilities.
Get used to?
Yeah, well, yeah. I even like it now. Beans on toast, which she likes to have sometimes.
It's food.
It's food.
It's not really culture. There isn't really anything that I can say that I hate. Obviously, I live here and I moved here in 1992. I love Barcelona and I love the whole culture. I prefer it to my own.
More or less.
Oh, no.
Oh no, fracasado. Here says fideuà.
Fideuà. It's a difficult question for me because I love food. I'm a foodie. That's the dish that I make very well.
She's mastered the fideuà.
Undoubtedly. What did you put?
Kind. What? No? Huh?
You always make me laugh. Well, you are kind.
I'm kind. I make you breakfast every day.
That's true. Did you get that one right?
It means I'm cheesy.
No, you're not cheesy.
Okay.
You're kind.
I'm kind. Again.
How to put into words what we think. How to put into words what we feel. Sometimes those words aren't even true. The words belong to us. Or is it us who belong to the world? In this world where everyone speaks, no one really blah, 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 blah. Can't you just listen for a while? How to know which way to follow in life? How to know which way to get there? Sometimes we reach that unique place. Once we are there, just tell me what comes next, and we go blah 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 blah. Can't you just keep quiet? And we go blah 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 blah. Can't you just listen for a while? Am I also restless, or am I special? That's why I'm trying to figure out. Ooh, ooh. In this world where everyone speaks, no one really cares, no one really listens, and we go blah 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 blah. Can't you just keep quiet? And we go blah 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 blah. Can't you just listen for a while? And we go blah 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 blah. Can't you just keep quiet? And we go blah 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 blah. Can't you just listen for a while?
Figures of speech are used not only in works by Shakespeare and other writers. Metaphors or similes, for example, are used in everyday language. So let's learn a few of them in the following language tip with Tim Guinea.
Today we've been talking all about Shakespeare, and Shakespeare added so much richness to the English language and has created so many figures of speech, and they're non-literal sayings, so they don't mean exactly what's written, and you can use them too if you want to make some beautiful poetry and speak them in your everyday life. So a figure of speech that Shakespeare uses often is a simile. So we use this with like and as we compare one thing to another. So her eyes were like two deep wells at night. A metaphor is a hidden simile, so very similar, but we don't actually use the like or the as. So if we think about the same example, I looked into those deep wells at night. I'm not looking into wells, I'm looking into her eyes. They're kind of similar to a metaphor, and when we think of metaphors, we can also think of a personification. So we take the human and we put it into objects. So an example would be, life punches me in the face. And of course, life has no hands, but we mean when life gets tough, we feel like we're being hit in the face. Another way that Shakespeare used figures of speech was irony, and you actually say the opposite of what you mean. So imagine you're sitting at a restaurant and you've ordered a steak, and the waiter brings out your steak and it's huge, it's really big. Well, you can say, oh my God, this steak is tiny, and you're being ironic. And Shakespeare used a lot of puns. He was the king of puns. So puns are funny expressions, and you use the double meaning of words. So in English we say double entendre, but a pun would be something like, we're all going to be late to our funeral. So that plays with the idea of being late, not being on time, and we also use the word for late if we want to describe dead people. So yeah, we're all going to be dead at our funeral. So why don't you try using similes, metaphors, and puns in your English, and I will see you next time.
Like all languages, English changes over time, and new words are invented every year. Not all of them make it to the dictionary, but some come to stay. And today we want to talk about English language and its evolution with our collaborators, Mark Broderick and Matthew Tree. Welcome. Hello.
Thank you. How's it going?
So, Mark and Matthew, do you like Shakespeare?
Well, I would quote two writers on Shakespeare. Anthony Burgess said he was a bit of a bore, but worth it. And Henry Miller said he was exactly the type of flatulent genius that England would produce. And I would agree with both those statements. I've read almost the whole of Shakespeare, and he can be a bit of a bore, and he is a bit flatulent as a writer, but he has some plays which are, for me personally, as a reader, are absolutely fabulous. I mean, you know, I would say Othello is the last word on jealousy. Hamlet is the last word on dangerous hesitancy, something like that. Love's Labour's Lost is a genuine comedy, and so on and so forth. I mean, he's written these fabulous plays, I wouldn't deny that. But also, I have to admit that I went through a stage where I decided to read all of him, and I kind of feel that for the rest of my life, I've sort of had enough of him. An interesting fact, by the way, is that if a person an English native speaker, goes to a Shakespeare play without having read the play before, without knowing the play, they don't understand about 40% of what's being said. It's something that's often forgotten about Shakespeare, because when he's translated, obviously, he's easy to understand, but in the original he's more difficult.
That's very likely.
Very eloquent answer. I must admit, I couldn't give the same kind of eloquence to the answer. We were forced.
But do you enjoy reading Shakespeare?
To be honest, we were forced to do it in Ireland, because it was part of our English literature courses. I mean, I've done The Merchant of Venice, I've done Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, and yeah, he's flatulent and he's boring. And I mean, we spent a year. I'm sorry. I mean, we have to respect him because he's had such a massive influence in the English language. I mean, we still use phrases nowadays that are still used. And as he said, 40% if you haven't studied it, you don't understand it. And us poor kids in Ireland as well, we were forced to do it. So we kind of rebelled against it. I remember one year we did one whole year of Hamlet in detail, and it was like my mind was about to explode.
Okay, so we said at the beginning, before that we are talking today about English language, how it evolved in time. Language is alive. So the question is, are you up to date to the latest words in English, the latest fashionable words?
Well, I mean, I'll start because we actually have a very different way of doing it in Ireland. In Ireland, what we do is we take the Irish language, we add it together with the English language, and we come up with a series of words that we kind of try to make our own, that we try to contribute to the English language in our own way, kind of like I'm sure the English do. And I actually have a couple of them here that you might not have heard of, especially Matthew at this stage. The first one we use is a word called banjaxed. Have you ever heard of this word?
No. I know what a banshee is, which is an Irish word.
Banjax means if something's broken. Now, don't ask me where the root of it comes from or where we come up with it from. Another one is off me trolley. Off me trolley?
To be mad?
No, to be drunk.
Leave me alone?
No, to be drunk, to be off my trolley. Exactly.
Because in English that means to be... to be off your trolley means to be crazy.
And we use it off your trolley is to be drunk. Another one we use is gaff. Do you use it? A gaff?
A mistake?
No, we use it as a house. We say it's a house.
Oh.
Yeah, that does ring a bell. Yeah.
And I have two more. I have shifting. Shifting.
A change or?
No, shifting is French kissing in Ireland. We use the word shifting for French kissing. And the last one is, I know. These are funny ones. I was talking to them the other day. It's like, we really, really make a go of it. And pure class. Pure class?
That's top quality.
Very good.
Oh,
excellent.
Really?
Well done, Marcella. You're up to date on your Irish vocabulary.
All right, what about you, Matthew?
Who, me?
After that, can you come up with...
No, I was thinking that, because I'm of a certain age, I've seen sort of slang appear and disappear, you know, and I remember in the 60s and even a part of the 70s, 60s when I was a small child, people would say things like fabulous, very good, groovy, which now would be cool more or less, pad for home or place or where you live. People still just said dig. Do you dig it? Do you understand it?
Do you get it?
Do you get it? Something like that. And all that, or sock it to me, which is like, impress me. Come on, sock it to me. All
Like,
that has disappeared completely. You know, it's almost embarrassing to use that slang
Sock
nowadays.
it to me. I haven't heard that one in years, actually. Yeah, you're right.
No, probably
And
since you were about
Can
2.
you dig it? We still use it. Do you dig it? Do you dig the beat? I think it's actually making a little bit of a revival. It comes with the clothes fashion and things. The kind of language it kind of follows
back,
behind it. No, it comes back again a little bit.
But 2 recent ones that I didn't understand, and because I've been out of the country and had to ask friends, were pants, which lasted for about 10 years. You say, this film is really pants. It means it's really bad, it's mediocre, it's no good. And there's a slang word, it's a sort of slang word that I really dislike, is toxic. Now, everything is toxic. Toxic person, toxic situation. The word poisonous apparently has disappeared from the vocabulary, but toxic, I think, is going to vanish also in about 5 years or so.
Britney Spears brought it back a couple of years ago. I think she had an album or a song called Toxic. No, I think that's where it all came from. No, she brought it back again.
Anyway, Mark, I know you visited Vic.
Yes, I did.
The last time. And what did you ask the people from Vic?
Well, I asked them a variety of things, how English language has changed their lives in general, and the words that they use in their everyday, etc. So it was quite informative this week, actually.
Really?
A little bit less of monkeying around, as you might call it. I went a little bit more for information because we were doing Shakespeare. So let's have a look.
Okay, let's do it.
To be or not to be, here in Bic, a medieval city where we're going to learn how English has evolved over the centuries since the times of Shakespeare. Do you use any English acronyms?
Yeah, LAL, live and learn. Well, LOL, of course.
Do you know what LOL means?
No idea, sorry.
Laughing out loud.
Do you use WTF?
No idea.
What the fuck?
Yeah, you can say it.
Yeah, I use what the fuck and BRB, like be right back, and TBH, to be honest, and I don't know.
MMO, multiplayer online games. AFK, away from the key.
Where is that from?
The player is not playing during the game.
Then you have ruffle as well, rolling on floor. Yeah.
Ruffle, I forgot about that. Rolling on the floor, laughing.
Yeah, rolling on floor, laughing, and then MAO, my ass off.
Sorry, what?
MAO? MAO, ruffle mayo. Rolling on floor, laughing my ass off.
So I'm learning from you. I'm
Yeah,
even
you
learning
should.
English from the Dutch people.
Yeah, which is this is good. You should.
So, Mark, how do you feel about this Dutch woman knowing more acronyms in English than you?
It doesn't surprise me because the Dutch and the Swedes are actually some of the best English speakers in the world. Sometimes they're even better than the Irish. As you've seen from the previous, we've got loads of things that we make mistakes with. But the acronyms is something that it always confuses me. It always has. I never knew what LOL. I thought it was love out loud or something like that. All of these things, like I don't use them too often. It's more my sister's generation who's 10 years younger than me.
So what about you, Matthew? Do you use a lot of acronyms?
No, I hate the bastards. I refuse to use them, you know, and because they're so, there's something so silly about it, you know, saying WTF. Oh, come on, say it, man, you know. It's something like that.
We have an expression in Ireland just before I left Ireland back in the 2000s, and people used to go around saying, we're having the lols. We're having the lols.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, actually incorporating it like right into the things, or like now they use things like OMG. Like I've heard my sister saying OMG.
Really?
Actually out loud, like without actually saying oh my God. And now there's an expression they use a lot in the new Americanisms that has influenced here is cray cray. Everything's so cray cray. No, using its meanings it's crazy. And I don't know, it's hilarious how people just actually say it.
There's a teen magazine in England called WTF.
Mm-hmm. What about political correctness? Some of the changes in language today are related to political correctness. Do you agree with this fact of avoiding to use the word actress, for example? And use actor instead, both for women and men?
It's completely up to the person, you know. If a person wants to emphasize the fact that they're female with the job that they do, then they can be a poetess, they can be an actress, that's fine. And if they don't want to emphasize that point, then they can be an actor or a poet. But what I find odd is that the universal standard that everyone goes for is in fact the masculine option.
Exactly.
To be an actor, to be a poet, that's the male option. So, you know,
What's the
we're
point?
supposed to be fighting sexism here, right? So it doesn't quite work out.
You're very PC in general?
Only when it
PC,
comes...
politically correct, sorry.
Yeah. No, only when it comes to insults. That's the kind of limit. I think you can say anything you want, but I mean, you don't call homosexuals faggots or puffters or whatever. You don't call black people niggers. You know, if that's no, because there are people in the United States who say, "Oh, that's political correctness stopping us from freedom of speech." It's nonsense. You're just insulting somebody. So for me, that's the limit. Otherwise, you can say anything you want, really.
Well, actually, I have
I
have to disagree there, because when I lived in Canada, I had a lot of friends, a lot of Asian friends, black friends, Jewish friends, white friends, Italians, and everybody, when we got together, like the typical joke was like we would always make fun of each other's stereotypes. So we actually got comfortable with those words that he's used that I won't say, not necessary to repeat, but it was kind of comfortable and kind of funny, and it kind of normalized the interaction between people about what the color of their skin or what religious background they had or things like that. So I'm totally not PC when it comes to that here as well. I try my best. I mean, I do try. But there is something in Ireland nowadays that I've picked up on, and only because of through my brother who recently moved over here, and it's the word trigger. And they use this word trigger in Ireland, we're extremely politically correct. In Ireland, we really don't want to say anything to anybody. We really like standoffish, about how we say things. And they use the word trigger when you're about to be politically incorrect or you're about to offend somebody. They say trigger, and it's like you have to stop the conversation.
Wow.
Really?
Because you're delving into the conversation that's bordering on the line of racist or politically incorrect. So you can use the word trigger with me from now on if I get out of hand.
When you were with your friends using these politically incorrect words,
Yes.
what did they call you?
A mick.
A mick.
A mick. A mick is like a mick is the worst thing you can call an Irish guy. A mick or a paddy. It's like a derogative term for an Irish person.
Okay. So what else did you ask the people in Vic?
Well, English words that they use in their everyday life, because I've heard so many people in different languages actually using English words in their everyday life. So let's have a look and see what they use.
Let's do it.
Are there any English words that you use when you speak to your children or to your I don't know, your dancing partners or whatever that come out naturally, you know?
Shut up.
Instead of saying "Kaya," you say
Shut up. Yes.
Very good. Very
Be quiet. Be quiet.
Is there any nice words, like, "Hey man, what's up? How's it going? Did you have a nice day? How was your breakfast?"
I don't think so, because Greek people is angry people.
And when I grew up, we used to read a lot of Smash Hits magazine and everything, and it was like, oh, blimey. We were like, oh, blimey. So I think a lot of Dutch people use English expressions without even knowing they do.
When we are in Italy, they finish everything like this beautiful house. I like very much how you are dancing, and it's always singing at the end. Yes.
He was saying like gogle, and I was like, you are starting like really, really bad, because gogle, I don't know what it is. And he was like always saying skipe and YouTube. I was like, please, like, stop.
When you ask for the Wi-Fi, you say Wi-Fi, and they say, what the fuck is Wi-Fi,
Lesson 101, Catalan pronunciation of English words. Fairi, U2, Wi-Fi, Colgate, strange one, Levis, YouTube. Now the right answer is ferry, U2, Wi-Fi, Colgate, Levi's, and YouTube. There's lots more, but I don't have a board big enough to put them all on.
So So nice lesson, Mark.
Yeah, they have to learn. I practice a lot. I'm a teacher, as you know. I have to constantly correct kids' pronunciations of things.
Actually, there are quite a lot of words which are mispronounced here or just totally wrong. We have more example?
Oh yeah, I have a whole load of them. Comfortable is a typical one I hear. Ship or sheep, the difference between a ship and a sheep. Beer or bear. That's another one. I'm going for a bear. I was like, really? You're going out with a bear? Good for you. Bird and beard is another one that comes up quite often. And bitch and beach, which I think even the Italians have problems with that one as well. The difference between bitch and beach. And shit and sheet as well. Yeah, I'm going to lie on the beach. And you're like, okay, well, good for you. Good for you. Do you have any ones?
Yeah, an
mispronunciations.
Yes.
No, in fact, my daughter used to correct her English teacher at school, you know, because the teacher used to say things like, a bit like comfortable. She used to say vegetable instead of vegetable. And fire, a bit like you're fiery.
Exactly, there you go.
It's not comprehensible. But what I really like are the way that English language words are kind of adapted by people here. You know, like people say, "Això és molt fashion," whereas that's very fashionable. You know, it's like they get the word, but they don't. Or they say something that's existed for years and years and years. Painters, artists, photographers, actors talk about their book, and their book means their dossier.
Like a portfolio?
Or portfolio.
Okay, I didn't know that one. Okay.
Yeah, they talk about their book, which means their collection of photographs or paintings. No, you don't say that. You say portfolio, maybe dossier, which funnily enough is a French word adapted into English, and so on. Things like feeling is un bon feeling, you know, it feels, it's so weird, you know. And also recently, very recently, is empoderar, which comes from empower. So people say, I'm sento empoderat, I feel empowered, but it doesn't actually exist in Catalan, empoderar. It's not a word.
There you go. So, I didn't even know that. Yeah. I was like, wow.
Yeah,
the last one, which I just heard recently from my kids, is això és molt cringe. In other words, this is really cringe-making, you would say in English, when something is embarrassing, cringe-worthy.
Cringe-worthy. Yeah, I corrected your English. Oh my God, Matthew! I think you've been here too long.
34 years too long.
What about ets un crack, Matthew?
It's un
Ets un crack.
Yeah, that one.
You say that in English?
No.
You're a crack?
No, you don't say that. What would you say for that in English?
You're top.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
you're the
crack
best.
You're the best. Those like tapping and footing and camping and parking and all of these words that have been adapted. And
freaky?
Freaky, I love that one. Yeah. It's about freaky, like a nerd or a geek. We don't use freaky in that particular sense.
No.
Like the Big Bang Theory, the freakies on Big Bang Theory. No, we don't use those ones.
Okay, so there are a few words that have been invented, okay, but are not used in English. Like the ones we mentioned before, there are more examples, such as, like footing, for example. How would you say that in English?
Jogging. Footing is jogging, yeah. Thapping is, basically being a couch potato, no? Or sofing even would be another one I've heard. There could be a couch potato as well, no? Yeah. No, channel surfing, excuse me. Thapping is channel surfing.
Exactly.
And couch potato is sofing. Yeah, they've used...
Camping?
Camping campsite, that's a typical one. Yeah. I have a camping in the Costa Brava. Well done. I'm going to the parking.
Which would be
It's a daily fight for me in my daily job.
What about a school? A school instead of school.
Oh, the pronunciation of the S, Spain, a school, a spoon. This one.
Spoon.
I always get the children to start off, and I put them in the classroom, and I go, okay, everybody make the noise of a snake, and everybody starts going, and I go, Spain, snake, and I get them and I drill it into them from a very young age because it drives me nuts. This one, and the other one is the ed at the end, walk it. Talk it. I talk it to my friend. I walk it to the school, and now I've started spelling it with T at the end, just because I'm just tired of having to correct the pronunciation consistently. And actually, the next video is actually misunderstandings with pronunciation, or funny things have happened while people have misunderstood pronunciations.
Okay, so shall we watch it?
Have a go, yeah.
Have you ever traveled abroad and spoke English in another country?
What a pity. And I was like, what the fuck is a pity? Because cigarette in Catalan you can say piti, me pásame un piti, so you smoke.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Instead of saying many regards to your wife, he said many souvenirs to your wife.
He had to press charges one day, so we went to the Mossos and we asked specifically for someone who speaks English. So he was going like, where do you live? And I was like, where do I, what? Because the pronunciation is really, I'm so sorry, Spanish people. It's really bad. It's really bad, yeah.
I know, we're working on that, we're working on it.
I know, no, really. They should subtitle more and like voice over less.
Hear that? Subtitle more, just like the weekly mag.
Yeah,
Thanks.
exactly.
In the hotel, when you ask for the keys, it's easy to say, give me the keys.
Instead of give me a kiss.
Exactly.
Can you give me a kiss? Hey!
Give me the...
Give me the kiss, and finally I got a man to kiss me, just to show that I'm open to everything.
Okay, so any experiences related to bad pronunciation that led to, unexpected, I don't know, happenings?
Actually, yesterday, I was thinking about this, and actually something very funny happened yesterday. I had a class of adults, and we were talking, and I was going to them and said, so what's your favorite animal? And one of the guy goes, chicken. And I said, chicken is your favorite animal? He goes, yeah. And he goes, it's the fastest animal in the world. And I was like, I was looking at him, I was like, there's no way a chicken is the fastest animal in the world. He's like, yeah. He said, it runs in the Serengeti. And I was like, oh my God. He had confused chicken with cheetah. But he was saying cheetah, but it sounded like chicken. It was hilarious, and the whole group had a good laugh at it. And another one for years, which I've battled with when I first arrived, and it maybe sound really stupid to you guys, but when we were out with friends, people used to go, he's very swelling, and I was like, I knew it was an English word, and I was trying to remain calm and, make people think that I understood what they were saying, but they were actually referring to people who drank a lot as Sue Ellen. Oh. Sue Ellen from Dallas, which I think was one of the first shows that came here, to Catalan television. Yeah. But they used to refer to people swellen. He's a real swellen. I was like, yeah, swellen. I know exactly what that means. And until finally I figured out that it was Sue Ellen, the alcoholic from Dallas. So yeah, it was. Those are the two that come to mind. That were funny enough.
One in particular is a Catalan friend of mine, and her first time in London, she wanted to practice her English. So I said, we were in a pub with other people. I said, okay, you go to the bar and you ask for what you want. So she went up to the bar and she said, yes, I want a cock and a bag of penis. A Coke and a bag of peanuts. and the guy behind the bar just started laughing. I mean,
There's a video online of a Korean teacher teaching the word "I love Coke," like Coca-Cola. You have to watch it. You will cry laughing. I don't even need to tell you anymore. You can just say trigger and I'll stop talking.
Okay, all right.
You can say trigger and I'll stop talking.
Pronunciation can be a tricky business.
It can indeed, yes.
Here in Catalan, do you think people pay more attention or are more concerned about pronunciation or, fluency or the ability to communicate?
I work in education of language and stuff like that, and I constantly tell my students that for me it's more important that they get the idea across than they worry too much about how things are pronounced. But I think that people here actually worry more about pronouncing things correctly, funnily enough. A lot of my students, they prefer it, They prefer to say things in a right way rather than being accurate with the language. I don't know, what's your experience, Matthew?
No, very occasionally I've come across people who speak technically, they speak really good English. Grammatically perfect English, and they've got their first certificates or whatever.
Yeah.
But because the pronunciation is so bad, it's in fact quite difficult to understand them. And I was talking about this with a friend in London, and he told me he was invited once to an event in the Spanish embassy in London, and he said, that's the Spanish ambassador. He speaks this grammatically perfect English, but it's actually quite hard to understand what he's saying. So there you go.
I see. I think we've got more examples of slang, of modern slang, because slang changes a lot and very quickly, and sometimes it might be difficult to understand what teenagers say to you. Matthew.
Or even slang
I
from
know you've
different
got some
countries.
experiences maybe
Yeah,
with your daughter.
I just asked my daughter, who's 16, just give me some slang that you're using at the moment, and she told me some things like to go commando is for a girl to go around without wearing any knickers on.
I don't think it even needs to be a girl. Anybody going commando.
And that's
Anybody
in
going
English.
commando.
That's in English, to go commando, yeah, to go commando.
You think that comes from like the commandos, like the soldiers, and they didn't wear underwear because, well, I don't know.
Who knows why? Yes, let's not go there. But she gave me some that I really didn't understand and I'd never heard of. And just to try you out with this.
All right.
On fleek. That's F-L-E-E-K. To be on fleek.
On point?
To be on fire.
No, it's when your makeup is really good. When it really works. You just say it's on fleek. Okay, bay. That's B-A-E. Bay.
Baby? Like my baby?
In what sense? It just means your boyfriend or girlfriend.
Yeah, my bae. I've seen that. I've seen
Yeah.
that somewhere, maybe on Instagram, yeah.
Fire, as an adjective. Something is
fun?
fire.
Fun?
Something is amazing, wonderful.
Yeah, something that's really, really, really good.
Well done.
It's the bomb diggity.
A snack.
Sorry, what?
A snack, as in a snack to eat.
Like a really...
A walk.
No.
A really...
Nice try, but no.
A really sexy young thing. I don't know. Like, you know, un caramelito, you know?
Boy
like
or girl.
Boy
or girl.
A girl.
If
a
you
snack.
find a boy, see, girls, you can say they're boys or girls, it doesn't matter. But if they're attractive, they're a snack.
But they use caramelito here, no? This in the Spanish?
Something
it's like
like-
something
yeah.
to eat, no? I suppose, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and finally, the one that really threw me is thick.
Thick.
Thick, which in English slang means stupid,
Yes.
but in teenage slang means
Crazy.
no.
Hold
drunk?
on. It's
drunk?
fashionable.
No, it's
No?
a really subtle one. In fact, it means a boy, or usually in most cases a girl, who isn't perfectly proportioned in conventional terms, but who sort of has the right kind of body, something like that, without being obviously sexy. Something like that. Thick, to be thick.
Wow. Well, we certainly learned a lot of new vocabulary today.
Well, so did I just the day before yesterday.
Screw Shakespeare, we got loads of things to communicate with the younger generations, the groovy generations of today.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of these words I will remember and be able to use them, but anyway, it's been very interesting. And here we end our special weekly mag devoted to Shakespeare. You can catch up with all our episodes and sections online, as you know, or you can follow us on social networks, for example, to send us the solution to the guessword puzzle by Mario Serra. Main purpose with balls. 5 letters. Well, have a nice week, and as we always say, keep your English up and running.
Everyone speak.